on live stream right now, and we're up and running, and there's Johnny.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
So, Johnny Million, I know you more than anybody, and welcome to the show, everybody. Like, subscribe, support the show any way you can. Patreon.com/Hal Sparks, etc., etc., etc. So, Johnny, I know you of all people. I when everything was going down, politically over the last little bit, I was like, okay, there's some areas where Johnny Million might have gaps in his understanding, as we all do.
What a kind way to put that.
There might be areas where you're just like, this just isn't, as they call it, the kids today, my wheelhouse. Yeah. And yet then there are other areas where I'm like, this might be confusing to most people, but Johnny Million will help us work it out because he'll know the details and the intricacies. And as soon as the former head of al-Nusra Front, an al-Qaeda affiliate that was started by ISIS, took over Syria after the rebels seized Aleppo, I was like, who can I call to explain this all to me? Because it might seem complicated to everybody from the outside, and it might seem like this is like the desert of the lesser of two evils. But I know there's got to be a clear binary reality in this that Johnny Million can set me right on. So I don't know. I feel like that's the wind up, and that's all you need to explain what's going on over there. Now, yeah.
It all started. I don't know if you ever saw the movie One Crazy Summer.
Of course I did.
Yeah, it's a lot like that, except replace the sailing thing with a coup.
Sure. Okay. Sure. Is there a fake shark from a knockoff Jaws movie that foams at the mouth about it's a shark with rabies?
It is absolutely shot by shot.
Yeah, you're right. I never thought as a parallel, and you normally don't like pop culture, references when it comes to deep and complex political circumstances. But all I'm going to say is nailed it up top. So, pack. So,
bravo.
Right. I have to say, and I think I thought the speech that Jablani / Shawar or whatever his Jawan, his real name, gave, where he was like, let me tell you a story about a little kid who was fat and didn't look like his twin brother, and everybody said he didn't look anything like him, and they used to pick on him.
Egg, were you that little fat boy?
What? No way. I used to beat him up too. I used to grab him and go, why are you so fat? Why are you so fat?
Why are you so fat?
That was a good story. So, all ridiculously aside.
You fellas want to help those lovely ladies with their boat? No, it sounds like work.
Nuts? No. What are you, nuts?
Sounds like work.
It sounds like work. Which is the genesis of the joke at the end of Dumb and Dumber. Just saying. It's, everything's a reboot. That said, we will be talking, and I know I will bring this up in hour 2 with Philip Ittner, who will be joining us from Kyiv. They have been under extraordinary bombing recently. By all measures, he is okay where he is. In the center of town, they've been, even as extreme as the bombing has been from Russia, they are focusing on sort of warehouses and places that repair helicopters and the like, and they're trying to and the electrical grid. So we are hoping he will have power when he joins us. If not, he has battery backup, and we should be all right. But what we are seeing by every measure, is the last gasp of Putin's. At the octopus of the Russian Empire as its tentacles recede. Because one of the things that Trump likes to say is because you can't prove a negative and you can always use it. Was if I was there, Ukraine, Russia would never have happened. October 7th never would have happened. Well, for all all reports that I have been able to look into, is that October 7th turns out was the domino catalyst that started the collapse of the Russian Empire's, sort of final. Its final collapse. Its last imperial. I don't know if I would call them kind of. It didn't have a primary control over these areas, but it had a subversive control over several areas in the Middle East and Africa. And the Ukraine war, certainly, and the need for men, and the fact that they've lost now close to 800,000 soldiers in a war to take 18 feet more territory than they had when it started. I mean, just insanity. But the fact that while this was going on, there's Georgia, there's Syria, there's elements of Sudan and Darfur, and these places start kicking up dirt where they hadn't previously, and it wasn't because the CIA or somebody decided, oh, we'll busy Russia in these other areas where they have outposts. We'll push them. We'll start these things rolling. We'll we'll flick the domino and make it happen. As, by the way, everyone on the right on Rumble is saying. That's now the prevailing mythology, is that this is all the CIA tricked Russia into attacking Ukraine, and they're the ones who told Iran to tell Hamas to do October 7th. I'm not kidding. Because, where else do you have to go? Desperate times call for, desperate conspiracies. And it's not even close to the reality the Russians themselves claim. As we saw this ever-growing alliance between them and China, their ever-growing alliance between them and Assad since 2016, when he retook Aleppo during the civil war and effectively has maintained control and has been rounding people up. They have a myriad of issues in that country anyways, and the argument that it is a country at all is part of the problem as opposed to a territory. And you can go all the way back to the Bell maps created by Gertrude Bell as part of, the sort of British anti-colonialism, as they're like, hey, we're going to move out of here, so let's kind of help everybody figure out who lives where on our way out the door. And you end up with the current borders of all these countries, which never existed. At the very least, they've been very fuzzy ever since. But the idea that they even exist, or that they have some sort of territorial integrity that everybody in the country cares equally about, is something we take for granted in the West. It doesn't mean they wouldn't want to. It doesn't mean that in general they wouldn't go, okay, it'd be nice to have a country. We know exactly where it starts and stops. That's pretty reasonable. Almost any kingdom does that. Unless you yourself have imperialist dreams, which nearly every major Middle Eastern leader has. And we, it is. People's appetite for more desert never can be satiated. But
more. I just imagine Kylo Ren yelling, more
desert, yeah,
more
desert. And one of the prime examples is the name of ISIS itself, which, by the way, is resurgent in this area because, and is also being carpet bombed at the same time. And I think it's more concerned that they're going to reconstitute themselves because they threaded themselves through. And it's like, it's like you've got a parasite or a couple of them. And one of them, if you take it out, might kill you because it's so entrenched in all your cardiovascular system. But the other one's just an intestinal parasite, and you can just take a pill and it goes. That's kind of what ISIS is in Syria right now, for lack of a more or less digestive analogy. And so everybody can do without ISIS. They can't necessarily do without the remnants of Al-Qaeda, because they started to gentrify at one point and became what the PLO was. The PLO originally was not only a terrorist organization, but the butt of jokes about terrorism in the United States and the West. Go back and watch not necessarily the news, or not the 9 o'clock news in the United States, or Saturday Night Live, or any kind of British comedy at the time. Yasser Arafat,
the 9 o'clock news.
Yasser Arafat and the PLO and the history of that organization was the running gag about terrorists in the Middle East for a good long while. And then they became the graybeards. They became the people who outgrew their terrorist tendencies, in theory, and became the settled adults in the West Bank. Meanwhile, other groups, not unlike them, upstarts, either organically or otherwise, rose up because they wanted a violent imperialism of their own, and they didn't like the fact that there was this fallback. We got to take a break, but when we come back, there's the one difference between the description of ISIS and ISIL and Daesh and all that is not meaningful to how we talk in the West most of the time, but it's extraordinarily important to how the discussion happens over there. And it defines how people fight amongst themselves. We'll be back right after this.
So I found some info on the Jeremy Piven movie.
Okay.
It is called The Performance.
Okay.
And
then it should have one, I would guess.
I'm sorry?
And then I suppose there are some in it, I would guess.
I would imagine. And he's getting amazing reviews. There's Oscar talk. It's coming out next year.
It's coming out next year?
Yeah, like it's right now. It's like in the it's at the what's it called? Not festivals. What's it when like Cannes and all that?
Oh yeah, well it's a festival. Yeah, it's at film festivals and the like. Yep. We think of as musicians.
This is cool. The movie's set in 1937, and he is the main character is a dancer, and he's hiding that he is Jewish.
That seems timely.
Yep.
Now I'm excited at the idea.
Yeah.
And so we'll see if we make that happen. By the way, chat room, everybody at home, there was some, I guess he's in Chicago, Jeremy Piven's in Chicago, I would presume, promoting this movie as it makes its way through festivals and then gets to things like Cannes, and then they're talking about it for, as Johnny was saying, and so he might be on the show later to promote it, but that happened last minute, so we'll see. If not, we'll have him on next week or something, or in the process of promoting it. It's a Chicago thing. We help our own. So at any time, whatever that works. The second hour is rough because obviously Phil's in with us, and it's a bigger conversation. Hold on one second.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
All right. So one of the things that when we're discussing what's happening over there is this idea that because Assad was terrible in the same way that Gaddafi was terrible, in the same way that Saddam Hussein was terrible, that the removal of them will somehow be a net positive over time is kind of assumed, unless some horrifyingly worse person takes over. And there are two reasons why that could be. One is the internal ability for them to torment their own people, which is the hardest thing for the rest of the world to deal with. And the second one is the ability to exercise their awful outside of their own borders, meaning to fire missiles into fellow countries, try to take over other territory, expand their borders, seize resources, drink the milkshake of other countries, as Iraq did with Qatar, or with Kuwait, rather. And there's a myriad of there's a lot of gray area about how to deal with that in an area, in a situation like this. How much do you side with them? Obviously, the State Department is taking a wait and see to see if this the leader of what was Al-Nusra Front, which was an ISIS offshoot, who broke away from ISIS because they were too violent, sided with Al-Qaeda, again, as sort of the graybeards, the older men who by comparison to ISIS, were downright civilized. And then even after that, decided they're breaking away from Al-Qaeda because it was too uniform and lockstep, I suppose, with Iran. And the issue that they had, of course, is that Assad is an Iranian proxy, because being an Alawite, he is effectively a Shia Muslim, which is what Iraq is. Sunni being the other sort of power base, not just the Saudis, but also Turkey. And the Ottoman Empire being effectively the Sunni Muslim empirical base. And this idea that Erdogan has, a gleam in his eye about reconstituting the Ottoman Empire in the same way that Russia is looking at reconstituting the USSR, the former Soviet states. Yeah. So, needless to say, as I think as Eddie Izzard would say, and it's a bit of a mess over there. One of the things, yes, the Ottoman Empire, famous for furniture, which collapsed like a flan in a cupboard, I think is what he said. One of the things, and I'm going to show this on the live stream, and for folks at home, I recommend looking it up. There is an area called the Levant, and ISIS is often referred to by people who actually deal in the area as ISIL, not Islamic State in Syria, ISIS, but indeed ISIL, ISIS in the Levant, IS in the Levant. And Levant is a big area. It encapsulates not only Syria, and this is pretty limited, this map that I'm showing online, but it's Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, and it obviously overlaps into parts of Turkey. The caliphate that ISIS was trying to start was effectively uniting the Levant, which would mean the elimination of Israel, but also the decapitation of the Lebanese government, the Jordanian government, and then, of course, siding with or overtaking, depending on who they could buddy up with, Assad or whoever the Iranian regime decides to put in there once the dominoes start to fall. So the plan for that was ISIL's entire point, and the caliphate that Trump is saying he got rid of is effectively this kind of thread of ISIL in the Levant, not ISIS itself, because in Syria there's a constant fight to stop ISIS as we know it, and it's been ongoing even after Trump left, and they're obviously still there because we just bombed like 14 of their camps so that they couldn't join together with other fighters and undermine the lesser of three evils that's taken over Syria. So this Levant area also includes an interesting area. This would be Cyprus, which is an island in the Mediterranean, is an island country in the Mediterranean. It is uniquely situated in this geography and has become over time sort of the Cayman Islands of the Mediterranean. The Bank of Cyprus, very well known for money laundering and the like. Russia has been known to store and filter their money. Vladimir Putin himself, through the Bank of Cyprus, bounce it into Deutsche Bank and others, but it starts there. And does anybody remember, hold on, let's see if I can bring it up in here, but does anybody remember, and Johnny, of course you will, I don't have to ask you, whatever.
Okay.
Who in Trump's cabinet worked for the Bank of Cyprus.
Shelley Duvall.
Close, very close, very close.
Elliot Gold.
Yeah. No. This fella, let's see if I can bring up a picture of him. This guy
Of
right
course,
here.
I'm just rattling off the
Wilbur
cast
Ross.
of Frog.
Yeah, right. That's right. Wilbur Ross. Wilbur Ross.
I know that name at least.
Yeah, he was in Trump's first cabinet and really kept a pretty low profile for the most part. Mainly because most of us thought he might be dead half the time because he was so old. The picture I just put up of him was, when he was younger. But he's definitely a withered fella. But he curiously enough, the Office of Governmental Integrity, the OGE or whatever it is, there was a lot of talk. Even in 2020, going back to 20, like, is he going to, or will he, or has he divested from all of his connections to the Bank of Cyprus? Again, a banking organization, the Bank of Cyprus, which is effectively just a money, at this point, or has been for a while, a money laundering organism that Russia uses to, on the one hand, bury and hide money they steal from their own people, in the case of Vladimir Putin and the oligarchs that are there, filter it to people they want to control in the rest of the world, mainly European leaders, people that perhaps may own a lot of Manhattan real estate. I couldn't imagine who that would be. And then...
Who's that?
Yeah. And then, of course, their proxies like Assad in Syria, and helping them filter money to get around sanctions, get around the SWIFT system, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so there was I don't know, let's see if I can bring it up. This is, Just Security. In 2017, there was an article in Just Security called Following the Money, Russia, Cyprus, and Trump's team's odd business dealings, which is adorable.
Odd. That's very polite. That's optimistic.
Yeah. While names like Carter Page, Roger Stone, and Michael Flynn dominate headlines amidst allegations of possible collusion with Russia, there's another angle to Donald Trump's connections to the former Soviet Union that's only beginning to receive attention. This is a series of murky financial dealings that often make little business sense. Taken on their own, many of these transactions appear perfectly legal. Viewed together, they show patterns of suspicious enough that they should qualify for investigation under U.S. laws. Russia's Mediterranean laundromat is the head of the paragraph about this. Cyprus has long-standing reputation as the place Russians go when they need to stash or launder large amounts of money with no questions asked. In March 2013...
Not me thinking it meant an actual laundromat. All right,
Yeah.
I'm going to check out here.
Absolutely. Kind of like in Breaking Bad or something, when they literally, like, the money is so gross and it's been stored in such disgusting places that you actually do put it in a washing machine. It's a little less, it's a little more complicated than that, but not quite. And I love the word odd, but we got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. Understand that the panic that is happening amongst Trump world right now because of what happened in Syria, what's happening to Vladimir Putin because of it, is extraordinary. And there is a bear trap around every corner, no matter what Trump wants to do in the coming year. We'll be back. Yeah. So, yeah, this is...
Hey, Hal?
Yeah.
All right, so I just got the confirmation. We got Jeremy Piven's number. You said you want him on for the last segment?
Yeah, the last quarter hour and that'll give us a good 10 minutes or so, right?
Okay, yep, and they also have a clip they want us to play, so I'm going to play the clip, then come back to you and throw it to you, okay?
Right before he comes in, you mean?
Yeah, they have a clip they want us to play before he goes on, so...
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay, I'm loading it in the system as we speak.
Nice. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, Hal, is there anything you can do so I can see you on
Oh, sorry, yes.
video?
Boink. I had to turn that off to turn my other thing back on so that I could see that. Beg your pardon. I forgot that. I was so busy fixing. I was putting out fires. Oh, cool. So we're going to have Jeremy Piven on the last quarter hour of the show today. That's cool.
Last quarter hour of the
first hour, yeah.
The first hour. That's crazy. The people I've gotten to meet through your show.
It's just lovely. This is what I was doing.
That lovely chat from the lovely chap from Kids in the Hall that called in that time?
Dave or?
Yeah, it was Dave.
Yeah. And well, I want to get Proops on the radio show as well.
I love him.
Greg Proops. Yeah, he's great. And he's got a new album out, so I figure like you can help him promote it. Because I'm cool like that.
Yeah, you are.
30 seconds, gents.
Thank you. And again, this article's from 2017. And let's see, is that... yeah. There's Cyprus. There's Wilbur Ross. I agree.
You're locked into the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back to the show. So in the bottom of the hour, we're going to have a special guest on the show. Jeremy Piven has a new movie coming out, and he's going to join us to talk about it. It's called The Performer, and it comes out next year, but it's in festivals right now, which I believe it's probably, I'm going to guess, even though I haven't been fully informed, because, my secretary is out with the trots. And so... And so she's not been able to. I keep warning her.
She loves pork rinds, that one.
She does, and I keep threatening to replace her with ChatGPT, but I can't bring myself to do it because after she was struck by lightning, she wears her underwear outside her clothes, and she keeps forgetting how many pencils are in her hair. But that's neither here nor there. So what I was talking about before, so in ISIL,
Wow.
ISIL being the Islamic State in Levant, which includes Cyprus. And for those in the cheap seats, this is from Just Security. This is an article in 2017. Cyprus has a long-standing reputation as the place Russians go when they need to stash or launder large amounts of money with no questions asked. In March 2013, it was widely reported that Moody's estimated that up to $31 billion in Russian money was deposited in Cypriot banks, which I love the fact that Cyprus, if you're, is the kind of derivative of that phrase, like you get Cypriotic citizenship. By the way, Cyprus also, for those that haven't been following along on the there is no Hunter Biden laptop storyline, which is real, the fact that there isn't one, the head of Burisma, the company that Hunter Biden worked for, when he fled after they really started looking into him, instead of the fake investigation that was happening under Yanukovych, that once Poroshenko came in and then Zelensky, they were starting to look at him for real, which is the whole point. He fled and purchased Cypriotic citizenship. He bought his way into having a Cyprus passport, as a lot of people do, so they can go around, because you can't.
Cypriotic citizenship sounds contagious.
It does. It sounds very painful. So yeah, it sounds like he's got cypriosis. But as
long as you don't touch the open source, you'll be okay.
That's right. Yeah, the former head of Burisma has for those that, let's see. Okay, that I can't have my sound effect whenever I need it, because it's just I'm too busy. I have too many screens open. That's the reality of it. That's not the one I was looking for, Johnny. That's
I've always got it ready, though.
Yeah.
The Burmese executives. So this
Whoops. Why is it not playing? That's going to annoy me. Yeah. Oh, it switched audio sources because it's jumping around. That's my fault. That's just sad. But now it's back.
The Burmese executives. So this Burmese, they say, pronounce it Burmese. Wow.
For the record, no one has ever said that to him, ever. That's how he covers when he screws up. He blames other people for making him mispronounce a word, and then he triples down. And this is, I mean, that's old. That goes way back. But roughly a third of all the deposits in Cyprus are Russian oligarch money. Another 40 billion may have been loaned to Russian businesses in Cyprus, according to the Ratings House. In 2012, Germany's B&D intelligence service, because they were looking into Deutsche Bank's stuff, put the number of Russian deposits slightly lower, 26 billion, a figure that's still much higher than the island's GDP. In the world, the entire country doesn't have a GDP of the stored money on its site. It's the same thing as Cayman Islands. It is the Caymans of the Mediterranean. Anytime you see Russia and Cyprus connected, it's a huge red flag.
Sure.
In the words of one former investment banker who worked deals involving former Soviet states. After the fall of the Soviet Union, this is where a lot of it dumped. And the island featured very prominently in the leaked Panama Papers, where it was referenced more than 500,000 times. In the document showing how global elites hid and moved their money through shell companies and the like. One set of the documents from the Panamanian offshore law firm, Mossack Fonseca, shows over $2 billion in sweetheart deals for associates of Russian President Vladimir Putin passing through Cyprus. That's just $2 billion in deals that he had. Just people basically grifting him, like giving, controlling him through that. So the point I'm trying to make is that when ISIL and again, we've got Russia in supporting Assad this entire time, and Iran in an alignment, and the idea that their alignment with Assad and Iran in this particular country is isolated to that thing and not to the proxies in Hezbollah that were protecting Assad as well, and that they would, anytime they wanted, they could threaten Israel. This is Russia, could literally, provoke, request, or order Iran to distract the West by having them attack Israel, which would not only cause damage to an ally of the United States and put them in a threatened situation, which would require the U.S. military to send support there, which is, since all resources are finite, the idea is that you could take some things away and lower American readiness in other places around the world, or bankrupt us trying to fill the gap, which was the other thing, that's revenge for 91, I suppose, is bankrupt us with military expansion the way we did with them. Might be part of the theory. But in their whole circumstance, they're involved. They're up to their eyeballs in all of it. The Russians' involvement with Assad didn't stop there. It's tied to Hezbollah and their alliance with Iran. It's tied to the Houthis and their supply. I mean, you're not going to see an M16 or even a Chinese machine gun in a lot of these places. You are going to see AK-47s, and a lot of them. That's not an accident. And they're not just old left over from the Afghan war, our Afghan war. And so the fact that Syria has fallen to anybody but another, Assad / Russia aligned / Iran aligned group, and that October 7th didn't actually pan out the way Hamas thought it would, because Sinwar is now dead, and one need only look at the damage done to Gaza, and the fact that it is effectively now an Israeli territory, and more than likely, like the Golan Heights, will be such, and all Palestinians that may still be there will slowly but surely be relocated to the West Bank, and people who are asking for a two-state solution may accidentally get it, because increasingly it looked like there would be a three-state solution, because the leadership in Gaza and the leadership in the West Bank were almost as at odds in the same way that these fighting groups in Syria were against each other. They want the same thing, the end of Israel, but they disagree violently on how to make it happen. The PLO was playing a waiting game where they would get recognized and sort of appeal to the greater world order. With Hamas and ISIS in Gaza, the ISIG, I guess, expecting that it would, I don't know, give them. There would be a great day of the rope, effectively. Like they were the Confederates who yell, "The South will rise again," well into the 20th century. Oh, right. That's it, right? It's the same people, same mentality. We will have the slavery and the system that we enjoyed once again. We will once again subjugate women and not bow to, liberal morality. And we will do it at the end of a blade or through a hail of bullets. And again, the PLO is like...
have Mr. Piven on hold, by the way.
That's excellent. Okay, well, we'll take a... How about this? Because it's we're almost at the quarter hour. Let's take a break early, and then we can come back after the break, and then we'll have the whole segment with him in a little more time. That sounds like a great idea. Okay, and we're going to play a clip from the movie as soon as we return.
When we're coming back, yeah.
Yeah, it's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
And in honor of this occasion, I'm going to go clean up some cat puke.
Sure, as you do. Right.
Okay.
Hold on one second.
All right, 30 seconds, guys.
Excellent. Mm-hmm.
Whew. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is Damian Perdue of Think Theory Radio, Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I thought there was going to be like a new one every break.
Are they loading the... I don't hear the clip, but they're playing it, just so you know.
I don't hear the clip either.
How about now?
Almost.
Yeah.
Who do you work for?
Harold doesn't even look Jewish.
We'll be in and out in 2 days.
People like you are trying to get out of there. Wake up!
All right, you guys. Al, we're live.
Yep. Welcome back, everybody. Joining us right now on the line is Jeremy Piven. Hometown boy makes good. And he's got a new movie coming out, and he's in Chicago promoting it and kind of drawing awareness to it, I would argue, at the same time. It's called The Performance, and it's based on an Arthur Miller short story, I believe, just of the same name. Jeremy, are you with us?
I am. How you doing, man?
I'm spectacular. And yourself? Thanks for coming on.
Oh, absolutely. If you mean by trying to bring awareness, I'm handing out flyers like I'm running for school president.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm the brother. The mighty have fallen. I'm 3 straight Emmys into the game, and I'm walking around malls handing out flyers at the moment.
But you're not just doing this for any project, though. You know what I mean? I would argue that if you had fallen this far because you were in, like, Hangover 4 and they'd recast it like Mask 2, I would be concerned, right? But this is a passion project for you.
Well, yeah, it's definitely the best work I've done in my life. It's something I've been after for 15 years. Mm-hmm. I'm from Chicago, and my mother, Joyce Piven, who runs the Piven Theater out here, she gave me the short story 15 years ago, and I bought the rights, and I've been after it ever since. My sister adapted it and directed it, and we're at the AMC River East today at 5 and 7 o'clock. We're doing Q&As. We're giving away signed posters. We're drinking. We're having adult beverages afterwards. We're hugging it out. It's insanity.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the best way to actually do it. I am a little disappointed I won't get to see you at the mall actually handing out flyers, though. I mean, I understand the parallel analogy, but again, this is, I look forward to seeing it because obviously, it's a city away and it's coming out next year in theaters. Yes.
This week is like for the Academy, it's like for your consideration,
right?
And so, but we're here all week, and this is my town, and I want people to see it, and then we go wide in February 7th. But this is a chance for me to meet people, hang out with them, and give back to my city. So you're in Chicago or you're not?
I'm in Chicago. Well, Johnny's in Chicago. I'm in Vegas right now doing the show remotely because they needed me. But I'm otherwise I would be there. Otherwise I would be there handing out flyers with you. So tell us about
where's Johnny?
Yeah.
Why can't we can put Johnny to work?
I know.
You never know. You never know. Well, you know what? Tonight, Jeremy, actually, I think you might appreciate this. I'm going to see Maria Bamford.
That's adorable. That's adorable. Yeah. Thank God. Well, listen. Thank you, brother. Well played. And then tomorrow, you're going to come to the AMC River East, and we'll all hang out. Because once you see this film, I mean, look. I've been doing this forever, and the reviews have all been, the best work of my life. And so, I'm 200 years old, so this is the best work of my life.
That's sweet.
Hal and I are both big One Crazy Summer fans.
Right. So,
of course.
Which I would argue is stellar work.
Well, what he's trying to say is we dropped anchor on your career well before other people did. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah. A lot of people wait for a while.
That's a beautiful old school reference. I love it. I love it. Yeah, this is something completely different because it addresses what's going on today, but doing it in a way that's wildly entertaining and fun and then devastating. So all of those things. And listen, it's, I don't want to say too much about it, but I can tell you that people are kind of blown away. And also in these times, we need an escape.
Yep.
So
agreed.
Come on come escape with me.
Yeah. Also, I would like to say for the record, you play a tap dancer. Here, explain the plot to everybody because I don't want to truncate it too much. But tell her, because you talk about how if you pitch the idea of the film to someone a couple of years ago, they would just look at you like you were insane and think you were pitching an SNL sketch or something because it's such an extraordinary tale.
Yeah, that's why, for 10 years I pitched it and they laughed in my face. And I play a tap dancer in Brooklyn who is broke. And he is offered the one night to be paid more than he's ever been paid in his whole life. He has to hide the fact that he's Jewish and tap dance for Hitler. And as soon as I said that, they ask for a check and they leave, and I never get my money. And yet, it's the best film I've ever done.
Right. Well, and again, because we're at that sort of crossroads of the devil and how far do you go, and does everybody have a price? I mean, there's a myriad of moral lines and conflict that you can explore in a situation like that. And as it started as a short story, I guess you expanded on that working on the script, because your older sister co-wrote it, right, with Joshua Salzberg.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really about, that's an excellent point. It's really about how much of yourself will you compromise for success? And then ultimately, can art override hate? And these are all themes that we come into contact with every day. I feel like I'm living my character. How much of myself will I compromise for success? Sure. I have no problem handing out flyers at a mall, 3 straight Emmys into my career, to get people to see something that I'm very proud of. So we all know that as artists, you do anything to get the work seen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, granted, and by the way, congratulations on your 3 straight Emmys. If I didn't bring it up earlier, and as somebody who was never nominated for Queer as Folk, I appreciate that at least some of us Chicago people get some recognition. That said, you shepherded this whole thing through, and the buzz seems to be that this is not just the best work of your career, but perhaps the best work of the year. And did you?
Well, listen.
Yeah.
That is. Look, I broke 8 ribs while filming this. One of the scenes where I'm being beaten. Yeah,
I see. I thought it was during the tap dancing scenes.
And then ultimately, I just figured, like, I can't give any more to a performance. I spent over a decade learning how to tap dance, and the role is devastating. You know, I'm a Jewish kid from Evanston that was bar mitzvahed, and I'm playing opposite the great Robert Carlyle. He's in a Nazi uniform. We're overseas filming, and all I had to do was be present for these scenes, and then it's the best work of my life, and that's. You know, this is what it's all about. But also, I want to be the poster child for not giving up, because the reality is I could have given up 116,000 times. And if you don't give up, if you've got something you want to get out there, just stay after it. It might not be on your time. It may be on, the divine time, but you'll get it made.
Yeah.
You'll get it made. And by the way, welcome to my TED Talk.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it or whatever. I'm sorry it's radio and we can't see the slides. Is there a situation, and this is sort of goes to the root of the actor in this, is there elements of, like, when you're doing the scenes that you're doing and somebody's wearing a full-on, I guess an honest rendition of a Nazi uniform right in front of you, in this environment that you're trying to keep as close to reality as you possibly can, is there just a shock to your system in even having a scene with someone dressed like that, that you kind of feel in your bones a bit? You know what I mean?
Yeah, another great question, man. You're tapping into it. I love it. Hey. No pun intended. Listen, brother, the uniforms that they were wearing were actual uniforms that were worn, and we're in Slovakia, and it did shake me to my core, literally, and it was overwhelming, and we were messing with dark forces. And when you're just present and available to all that, listen, there's a lot going on in the world, and I can tweet and rail against the injustices, or I can, do these performative gestures, or I can do what I do, which is I'm an actor. I'm a storyteller, and I'm telling this story. And it's going to cause some uncomfortable conversations, and that's what I'm after. I'm after all of us talking to each other. You have something against someone. What is that? What's going on? Do you know the history? Here's a little bit of history. And people get lost for a couple hours in the theater with me, and they see these characters, and maybe they see a different point of view.
Absolutely.
And so
it humanizes
that's what this is all
reality.
about.
Yeah. So did you, while you were, I know I've had moments after very heavy performance scenes and stuff where there's sort of an emotional purge to it that you experience, because it's, most people, you have an argument with a loved one, it happens once that day. When you have an argument on a movie set, when you're working, you're as committed to it as any real argument you've ever had, but you do it 15 times, maybe 20, maybe you're picking up parts of it. So that can take a toll, and did that deepen the work as you were doing it? Because I know you've been working on this for 10, 15 years. As you're doing it, is it you're finding depth maybe you didn't even realize would be there?
And these are great questions.
Hey, man.
You're absolutely right. Look, we don't have enough time to unpack what I've been through in my life.
Yeah.
I've been through a lot, and everything that we are, we bring to these roles. Yeah. And so, listen, we've had Holocaust survivors that have joined us at screenings. I didn't go through what they went through at all. Sure. I'm just an actor. Yeah. I'm just some jerk actor from Chicago that is throwing my soul into everything that I have, and I don't know how to phone it in. So when you put everything you have into it, and it is exhausting. And when I did the turning point moment in the movie, and I just lose it emotionally, and we're doing it over and over and over again. It's funny because the last scene of that day, my sister is, directing me and yelling at me to lift my partner up in this dance sequence. And I had nothing left, literally nothing left.
Right.
Like my body, you're absolutely right. Once you hit that and you're emotionally available and you just go there over and over again, your body's going to hit a wall. But it's an honor, it's a privilege.
Right.
This pressure is a privilege, and I'm so grateful that we made this, but it does take a toll. I mean, when I played Ari Gold, I'm screaming for 12 hours a day. Right. I'm screaming and breaking computers and screaming Lloyd. I tried to take a run after one of those days, and my body shut down. It's like, no, we're not doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I also think that by hitting that wall, it also strips away any barriers to the performance that you might have subconsciously been holding on to, or any kind of like sense of covered and cool that you put in front of it that doesn't allow the honesty of the experience to come through. And so, your sister knows you probably as well as anyone in the world. So maybe she knows you've got a line farther than the line you think you have, and that's what she's pushing for in those moments. But do you think doing this also, I appreciate the humility of saying just a jerk actor from Chicago and the like. I don't feel that way as a performer myself. I feel like it's a valuable addition that we bring to something, because you can legislate things, you can argue them, you can even physically fight over them, but there's a gray area of human interaction that stories handle, and they're very important. And especially stories like this, where you can bring sort of I'm sure there are sweet moments in this as well that break some of the overriding tension that must be the circulatory system of the story that bring you out of that for just a moment.
Yeah, completely. And you're absolutely right. Doing this type of work and being in touch with yourself emotionally to be able to go to the place you need to go to, it breaks through all of that so that you're totally present and available to do your best work, for sure. And this brings up a lot of issues. A lot of people get their history from TikTok, or we don't know where we get it. They get it. And, it's important to know our history, and then it'll inform kind of what's going on today. And so, we can all have intelligent conversations about what's going on. And what this does is to show you, where we come from. But not do it in a didactic way, just in a way that tells a story with 3 acts, and you fall in love with these characters. Hopefully, that's what I'm hearing. I hear people gasp in the theater, and so the power of storytelling. Then you can see someone else's point of view, and if we're living in times where everyone's living in extremes. Yes. And if you're available to look at someone else's truth and possibly have your mind changed, man, then we're on to something. Right. Then we, but if you're not, and if you're not available to another truth, then that's a problem, and it's just an honor. Listen, everyone's saying, oh, you timed this perfectly. It's like, no, I didn't. The universe did. Like, I wanted this to come out 7 years ago, whatever. And it's coming out now. It's, at a time when, anti-Semitism's on the rise. Right. There's a lot of confusion out there. And I'm just honored to throw this out there right now.
I think it's spectacular. I want to thank you for coming on. Good luck with it, and I will send Johnny as an emissary, and hopefully he'll talk to Maria Bamford tonight and see if he can bring her with. We'll see. I don't know if she flies out early. You know how she is.
Maria's really
it's been a real honor.
We celebrate her with the power of Christ, even though I'm Jewish. We'll bring Maria after the show. Bring her tomorrow. And let's all hang out
at the AMC. Which one? Beg your pardon, because I want to make sure we get that right.
River East Theater. It's right there on Illinois. Yeah. I'll be there at 5 and 7, and then I'm there tomorrow as well at these. We're doing Q&As, and we're all hanging out. Excellent. And I've been touring doing stand-up myself. So people are crying, and so I then do stand-up comedy after the show.
I see. I thought they were crying at your stand-up. So yeah, I was like, that's not exactly stand-up if they're crying. So I understand where you're going. All right, take care, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
That's Jeremy Piven, new movie called The Performance. It'll be out in February, but it's playing in Chicago this weekend. Special events where you can meet and greet and check it out this weekend. And we'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Wow, that was very cool.
It was very cool. It was very cool. So, excellent. I mean, I almost wish I could well, let's give some tickets away, but there is no such thing. So.
I know.
Yeah. So, good stuff. And I just love the idea of Jeremy Piven taking 10 years of tap lessons.
I believe it.
I got to say, tap has been on my skill list for a long time of something that I don't do so far. And I would like to do, but it's not one of those things where you can necessarily watch YouTube videos, you know what I mean, and learn.
Yeah, you can't half-ass it.
No, it required, and Summer knows some amazing tap dance artists. Yeah, and one of them taught here for a while, and then he moved away, and I was all set. Oh, and Hal Vickery, thank you so much for the super chat, by the way. Good Lord. Went on a cruise with family next 2 Saturdays, so this includes the kind of, thank you so much. Happy Chris Hanukkah Kwanzaa. Absolutely. Thank you.
James Etling has been a member for 23 months.
Aw.
Thank you, James.
Patrick says, thanks, Jeremy, for your work at PCU.
Yeah. PCU is another big one.
Yep.
I didn't realize he was in Grosse Pointe Blank.
Oh, yeah, he's amazing. 10 years. 10 years. 10 years. Remember that? He was the guy, he was the best scene in that, in and amongst character was where he shows him the house. And the security guard comes up and is like, "They give me a gun," and and they start talking shop about what kind of gun the security guy can have. The dialogue in that scene is so fast, it's brutal. It's like they're trying to crowbar 10 minutes worth of dialogue in 3 minutes. It's awesome. Terrific. Yeah,
I'm gonna check it out again. It's been on my list.
Mm-hmm. So, just hilarious.
And I never have anything to do on the weekends, and then here along comes Jeremy Piven.
Dun dun dun. Well, I mean, we didn't even have dude. I'm half want to fly in tomorrow morning and just go.
Yeah.
But I got a lot going on, and I fly out on Friday for the Christmas holiday, gathering up the kid and taking him on the tour of all the family. There's Phil. There he is, waiting in the back. Okay, and you see him down there. Hi, Phil. Can you hear us?
Hey. Yep, I can hear you.
Excellent.
We're back in Tony.
Okay, cool.
Looking good, Phil.
Looking real good. Yeah, there we go. There we go. There you go. Pop this in here. And paste everybody in, which is what I do. There we go. And then I got to grab Johnny's thing again. Copy. And then put it in here. And then I got to put that. Okay, and then filters.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Well, welcome back to the show. Well, that was a good time talking to Jeremy Piven about his new movie that was coming out, and again, very timely theme-wise and the like. And in this world of sort of crazed, whoops, where'd Johnny go? Is your camera?
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Yeah, all right. I think you look. I don't know. It's a vast improvement. No,
this is about as good as I look.
I feel like you're staring at me, though. So it's the evil eye. Philip Ittner joins us from Kyiv. I can tell from the poster behind him there is no power except via his battery system. Hopefully it will come back on during this. There's obviously been a lot of, Russia has been throwing a fit at Kyiv and the surrounding area for the last little bit. It seems almost more in response, less to the long-range missiles, but to the fall of Assad in Syria and the collapse of the tendrils of the Russian Empire, almost to like exercise some sort of dominant strength in this circumstance. It is. I mean, there's so many moving parts, and everywhere I turn, Phil, as I look at, as I kind of check in with the news around the world, be it from WION, the Indian news, and England, and the European Union, all the news sources in there, even the AP and CNN International, the general consensus seems to be that the fall of Assad was a shocking drop in power and prestige for Vladimir Putin, almost as much as it seems losing 800,000 of his own citizens in a worthless war of his own choosing.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that we've talked about for a very, very long time. Russians will sustain losses. They for a variety of reasons are willing to.
Life is worth less than land.
Life is cheap in Russia. But the loss of prestige, the loss of their place on the globe as a great power, that's something that they're very much concerned about. So yeah, I mean, if you look at if you watch the Russian television shows and the talk shows, they don't understand. They literally can't comprehend.
Yes, Simonyan and
that they would have to leave
and all
Syria.
the sloppy seconds of Channel 1 or First Channel or whatever it's called, the 60 Minutes and all that. Like there's almost a level of confusion to it that's very telling, more so than shock and dismay. That it reminds me of at the end of 48 Hours when Gans gets shot, and his reaction is not to feel pain and bleed. He literally just says, "I can't believe it. I got shot." After he'd been shooting everybody the whole time. The shock of that was overwhelming to the pain and the loss of blood, and his own ego at that point was more important to him in that circumstance. And that really is, like, it's what you're seeing in these people. They're stunned.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also like, it's analogous to those things you kind of have to draw your eye out. You have to lose your focus because otherwise you can't see the picture in front of you.
Sure, they
can't see the picture in front of them.
Yeah,
they can't. They literally are incapable of seeing what is happening. And so they're very confused, and they're very. There's a lot of anger.
Yep.
And it's, again, as you point out, 800,000 casualties in this war for gaining a stretch of territory the size of the,
half
the
of
eastern
Toledo.
seaboard from like Boston up to Rhode Island. I mean, it's not a lot.
No.
But for 800,000 soldiers casualties, they're willing to. Yep, sure, fine, no problem. But you get embarrassed on the global stage, and you have to withdraw from a strategically important location. You lose yet another warm water port, one of your only few naval facilities.
Yeah,
that is something that. It's more disturbing than the casualties, and it's baffling to me.
So,
but I don't understand it. I'm not Russian.
Right, and one of the things, one of the things that you and I have seen, and by the way, we're gonna have a lot of questions from the chat room because we couldn't get together last weekend, and people are gonna, have a lot for you. So Johnny will be looking through those and getting to them, and we'll try to get to them relatively early. But I have a question, and we have been looking, you and I, over the last couple of years. There have been a couple of very telling moments where Erdogan, the leader of Turkey, has oddly been kind of has pushed back on Vladimir Putin's power and status, making him wait at these, at these big gatherings where no one dare make Putin wait, standing over him, overruling him in a couple of these group meetings, not showing for a couple of them because basically saying, I don't need this. And then we hear that this, in the last couple of weeks, the intelligence that's coming out and reporting from that area of the world, and this is, again, not just a single Western source, but like Al Jazeera and a bunch of other places are reporting this, that Assad was complaining to Iran that that Turkey was helping the rebels that would ultimately unseat him. Now, they are Sunni. And Erdogan is Sunni, and the rebels are too, as are the Saudis. And Iran being Shia, and that's been a big divide for a very long time. And that divide seldom in the past has helped or hindered, the West's situation more than it is right now. That divide is seemingly getting stronger by the day. It's always been bad. They've always been, exercising the sort of like purging within their own borders, different groups. But now it's crossing borders more than it seemed to before, maybe because of Iranian adventurism, and they're deciding to kind of muscle out the Sunnis, that the Sunnis are pushing back. And it's but Erdogan, it seems like he's been quietly building this power grab in direct contrast to Vladimir Putin's support of the area around him.
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, first and foremost, there's historic reasons.
Yeah.
Turkey and Russia in the 19th century, well, starting in the 18th century and then going through the 19th century, fought a series of wars, basically because Russia was expanding their control over the Black Sea, in many reasons why the current war in Ukraine is happening.
Right.
Pardon me. So there's historic reasons why Turkey and Russia have beef. Erdogan and Putin don't like each other. That's also been evident. But I think at some point Erdogan did his calculations, did the math, and realized there was more to him not, backing Assad. That and ergo Russia, than letting it all fall apart and the chips fall where they may.
Right.
He has a contingent. There are Kurds, that have kind of plagued Turkey, that have found refuge in Syria. Now that in and amongst the chaos, I spoke to a Kurdish friend of mine just today, as a matter of fact, and one of the first things the Turks did after Assad took off was they started really getting aggressive against the Kurdish population in northern Syria. That seems to be in a quiet period right now, but they really went after them, and that's something that Ankara and Erdogan have always kind of wanted.
That's right.
Then to add to that, I mean, these are all the various reasons, but to add to that, if Syria stabilizes in such a way where they could build a pipeline directly from Saudi, so Saudi Arabia through Jordan, through a stabilized Syria and into Turkey, and they start chipping away at Russia's, gas exports and natural gas exports. Their fossil fuel exports. What's currently is under sanctions, flawed sanctions, but currently under sanctions that are probably not going to be lifted anytime soon.
No,
you build that pipeline from Saudi directly through Turkey into Southeast Europe, boom, energy problem solved. Nord Stream 2 does not have to return. They can build this new thing, and it would be a huge benefit for Turkey's economy. So I think Erdogan sized it all up and said, I don't like the guy anyhow. I don't like Russia anyhow. And I can get a lot of benefit if Syria falls. So no, I'm not going to put pressure on these other rebel groups that were within Syria. So Putin is furious at him. I mean, he apparently is.
He's miserable.
reports from inside the Kremlin are saying, yeah, he is like throwing, temper tantrums and stuff about it. So, yeah.
And couldn't happen to a nicer guy. It is an extraordinary turn of events, and one of the things that and we got to take a break, but when we come back, we'll have questions from the chat. I have no doubt.
I got no love for Erdogan, by the way. Let me just add that.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a bad guy.
Totally.
But we're just laying things out as they are.
Exactly. And again, I don't know that there's any good guys in this circumstance. There's just less bad guys. Again, we're talking about the lesser of six. Yeah, well, the Kurds are a group of people, not a singular person. If there was a leader that took over them, I think we'd be in, you could argue that maybe there's some, you could argue about the morality or the ethics of that particular person. The Kurds are a people. But in this particular instance, I think we will continue to see this kind of the shock and awe seems to be inverted, like it's coming at Russia, and it's all of their own making. But we'll talk about that after the break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Give me 1 second. Yeah. There we go. And then
we're supposed to be without power until 11.
Short break. We're back in 20.
Thank you.
3 hours. Thank you, Chicago.
Okay, now we got something.
You're locked into the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back. So, there's so much I would love to cover with you, because as this continues to unravel, I think part of it is that it's a jump ball right now. And other than this being a really bad week for Vladimir Putin, the material circumstance in Syria is anybody's guess, whether it ballasts into something more sensible, or if it becomes, chaos for a few years that nobody can or even if the country survives as a single entity, that if there's not just, divided amongst territories and there's kind of a feudal understanding of like warlords, like central to southern Afghanistan, right? Why not? I mean, these borders are...
Syria got it. It got one of the worst examples of the fallout of the Sykes-Picot Accord.
Yeah.
After World War I, when the great European powers divvied up what was the Ottoman Empire, and Syria got it really, really bad. There's a lot of mixed stuff that doesn't gel.
It's properly. The magician shop. It's the toy shop magic bag. Like, it might be, there's a bag, you don't know what's in it. It might be worth $100. It might be worth $2, but it costs $10. And so you don't find out until you buy it and open it. And Syria has been that for a long time. It might work out, but probably not. And it's probably not going to be worth it. Yeah. And that was the issue that they thought with. It became
Syria and Iraq. They got it really bad after Sykes-Picot.
Yeah. And because there was a less defined area, I think, too. They could, you can't divide it up into 15 small countries the size of Qatar. So they just decided 2 large areas and just figured they'd duke it out within their borders, and which was brilliant.
It's that great scene in Lawrence of Arabia. Mm-hmm. Well, you see a French, official and a British official sat down with a map and a ruler.
Yeah,
and it doesn't make any sense. Some of these borders don't make any sense. They're just arbitrary because the great European powers divvied it up. Colonization, baby. Mm-hmm. So we may see a shakeout of that. And look, I mean, we've already the question of federalization in Iraq is still bubbling away, and was, and I think continues to be, a big issue. And we'll have to see how Syria shakes out. It's messy, and it's going to be messy. So, but if it does stabilize into something manageable, that pipeline would change so much.
Well, and it's certainly without Russia and Iran intentionally propping up a particular dictator who they could direct because he needs them. They could direct who his ire should be pointed at, whether than it happening organically and discussions happening. Because again, an enemy created by somebody that you are being blackmailed by or extorted by is a very different than an enemy you have a disagreement with, because at least you can talk out the second scenario. You can't have a sit across the table from somebody that someone else is paying you to kill, right? And that's not the purpose of it. But if you disagree over religious beliefs or federalism or any of those things, you can sit across from them as long as you're, which is why we have problems with people that are propped up by Putin in our own government, because those people aren't having disagreements with the other side of the table, based on reality that you can actually work out. They're arguing because they're being told and directed to argue. And that's what Syria's been for the last little bit. That's why this is superior to what was happening. I didn't want to go into this too much with you because I want some of the questions, and I know we have some, Johnny. What's the first one up?
We do. So the first one is from Ed's 30 Tech. Can you ask Philip if Ukraine is going to rename a missile, quote, smoking accident?
Right, because
no, they're not going to do that. It's a good joke.
Yes,
it's a good joke.
Yeah,
but no, they're not going to do. Yeah, this is these. Zelensky's been crowing about. I think it's 2 or 3 new missiles that they're in the late, either have developed or in the late stages of developing. Mm-hmm. Longer range stuff, larger payload stuff that could get to Moscow, and stuff that they could produce domestically. I mean, the joke being, of course, that every time there's a gas depot or an arms storage unit that goes up in flames, the joke is that the Russians always try to explain it by somebody was smoking a cigarette and it lit the fire. So it's a good joke.
Right.
But no, I doubt it. I don't think they'll follow through on that. Oh, they do have a good sense of humor.
Mm-hmm. Let's grab another one, Johnny.
All right, I've got one from Shredder Monkey. This is for Hal and Philip, about the Russian minister outrage that Kyiv only has bargaining power because of American aid and how this might affect Trump's decision in Ukraine.
Oh, Crimea River.
Right.
Ooh.
I mean, it isn't materially. It isn't true. They have bargaining power because they will not give up the fight. And so, even if there's a situation where Russia decides we're going to take all this stuff, that occupying land is hard. And if the people themselves have decided, I don't care what happens to me, we're going to keep fighting street to street. That's where the bargaining power comes from. Because unless you reach some sort of bargain that's real, the Ukrainians aren't going to put up with it, even if they're cut off from certain weapons. And the West overall isn't going to drop that support. And Biden has front-loaded a ton of weapons for the next year and a half, and Russia just does not have the resources. I mean, they just pulled stuff out of Syria. One of the reasons Aleppo fell was because they had been protecting Assad, and they had to pull their arms out of Syria to fight in Ukraine, some of their soldiers, a lot of their gear. And when they did, again, it's a zero-sum game. They're running out of stuff.
Well, and it's also an indication, and it's one of the things that infuriates me most about Moscow and also those who propagate Moscow propaganda.
Yeah.
Russian Kremlin propaganda. In that, the idea is that Ukraine does not have agency. That it can't be that the Ukrainians don't like us. It's that they've been seduced away, or they have been corrupted by the CIA or MI6, or take your pick. But it negates, what it does is it negates Ukraine's justifiable defense of itself and its centuries-old resistance to being colonized.
Yeah.
This, in case you ain't heard me say it before, folks, I'll say it again. This is an imperial war of colonization. This is a colonial war. It's 1776. We had an ocean between our imperial masters and our 13 colonies. Ukraine is right on the doorstep
That's
of
right.
their imperial masters, and has been for centuries. And they have been trying to resist time and time. This is at least the third war of Ukrainian independence. I got an episode coming up this week on Sunday. I speak to a woman from Kharkiv who explains this perfectly, and I urge everybody to tune in.
Right.
Do not deny Ukraine its agency. That's what Russia wants us to think. They want the world to think that this is by design of the entire West. No, this is the Ukrainian people saying, we don't want to live like you. We don't want to live under your thumb, and we don't want to live with your kind of system, your kind of, this very cruel system. And so this minister in Moscow he's just perpetrating the same thing that it's not. Ukrainians love us. They've just been seduced us.
It's also anything he says about depending on which I guess stations or channels are connected on Rumble. Either right before he says it, you hear all like 9 of these channels on Rumble say it, and he's repeating because they sent out the memo. That's how you can tell, by the way. If he comes out and says something, and people on Rumble like Don Jr., Kimberly Guilfoyle, or Bongino, or any of these people, if they start saying it, they got before him. They got the memo. If they get
worse than that, Rogan.
Yes, right. Well, Rogan does it after. So Rogan is not driving the conversation. He's a follower. Right.
Well, either way, he regurgitates it. And you're right. Your point is absolutely 100% valid. But if you get the codex, if you get the kind of the way it works, you see it. And the way that the message gets moved all the way through, and then ultimately, yes, it does get to an audience like Rogan's size. And it is a monumental task, and it is constant. Yeah. This pushing back against the Kremlin's narratives that they spread everywhere, and they either do it by hook or by crook. They'll pay somebody, they'll put somebody in a compromising position. They'll go to somebody who's a fellow traveler and who is anti-America, anti-West. I hate everything.
The America bad crowd.
Daddy lied to me about Santa Claus. The 13 colonists weren't saints, you know. And I'm upset about it, and I want to tear it all down. Oh well, sorry, baby. So, boo hoo hoo. Time to put on some big boy shorts. They go to those guys. And those guys are like, I will certainly support Russian Empire, American Empire, bad. Russian Empire,
Yeah, that seems to be the weird part. It's like they'll cry about like British imperialism, in the 20th century, but Russia doing it today. They're like, it's really what it's. I mean, if you think about it, your land is whatever you take, I guess. Like the sort of moral vacuum they live in is bizarre, and again, it makes it easier to just kind of dismiss their criticisms outright and to the level of them being absurd. But it ultimately, the weird part is it's mattering less and less. I have noticed, and we got about another minute before we take a break, and we'll have more questions from the chat room for Johnny Million and to give to Phil after we come back. And I want to remind everybody that Philip has a show called On the Edge on Sundays. Are you going to have a new episode tomorrow? Is it coming out tomorrow?
New episode, Anastasia from Kharkiv. And we talk about a whole bunch of stuff. She was recently on Piers Morgan's show. She was great. And she tore those, the Kremlin propagandists. She tore them a new one. So she's great to talk to. It's a good episode. Really good episode.
I haven't seen the episode yet, and I will watch it tomorrow. But I haven't. But I saw her in that episode you're talking about.
More than she's great. She's great.
I will say that I'm increasingly seeing that the Vatnik propagandists on our media that are on Rumble and YouTube and other places like that are largely at this point phoning it in. And I don't know if the fall of Assad and all that kind of stuff, if some of the money's drying up, or if they're just not they're doing the bare minimum now because they're not even bothering. You know how they like instead if you're stealing somebody's answers off a test, at least put it in your own words. In your own words, describe this thing. They're not even bothering to do that. It's like a rubber stamp. They're literally. I mean, I'm sure we could do a gathering of video of all of them saying it, and they're saying the exact same sentence over and over again. They're certainly all using the same phraseology. But anyways, let's take a break. We'll be back right after this with more of the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Now with 100% more Johnny Million. He's got a live stream too, It's called It's Johnny Million on YouTube and Twitch.
Yep.
We'll be back.
Here.
Over 2,000 poison to the Russians used to come. Yeah, okay. Literally, like I've been watching some of the Tim Pool, like this stuff I don't have to play for my audience because it's just tiresome. But like Pool and all the other people who are tenant media people, Benny Johnson and the like, they're still getting the marching orders. They're just not getting it through tenant. They're or in the case of I think Tim Pool, what you do is after you've been busted and the money dries up, you keep saying what you were saying before because you have to look like it was organic. So he keeps doing it even though he's not being paid to say it, to say that I'm just saying what I say because I really believe this, when it's clear they don't. They don't, like he doesn't even think past the surface layer on any of this stuff. It's
and they're ignorant.
Same,
they really
same
they have no idea. But then so does like Cenk Uygur.
Yeah.
I
told everybody.
No, I don't think Cenk is getting paid by Moscow, but he does spread the ignorance. This is a complicated issue. This is something
he's got. First, TYT is half audience capture and the other half is manipulation because they're like, oh, I got these like dough-headed saps where I can hijack their empathy and turn it in a direction I want and then monetize it. So they believe what I've been saying. So I'll just start doubling down on this kind of stuff, and that's where that comes from. Thank you. It's not that his money isn't coming from Russia, unless, of course, they've got, audience members and memberships and stuff that's being paid for through Russia that makes it look like it's an organic audience, which happens a lot. Oh, look at all these memberships we get from Macedonia, right? And all that, right? Or VPN accounts.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back. Oh, that's the voice of Lady B. We love her. Johnny Million, let's grab another question from the chat room for Phil.
Right on. Scrolling back up. Got this one from Lindsay. U.S. Intel says Russia is about to use a big boom boom. Does Ukraine believe that this will happen or just more threats? What's the morale in Kyiv right now?
Well, I mean, I live less than 2 minutes walk. Well, no, more like 5 minutes walk to the Parliament building. And pretty scared. Pretty scared. Go to bed every night not knowing if I'm going to wake up. And I don't think that is an unusual sentiment. Every day I go down to my local market, the central market here in Kyiv, and I talk to people, and I got a guy who sells me very good craft beer, and I sit and I have a pint and I talk to the people in the bar, and the general consensus is if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. What can we do? But it is terrifying because this weapon, this Oreshnik hypersonic missile, is Putin claims it's unstoppable. So we'll have to see, because they shot it at a town called Dnipro, and it was pretty scary. It didn't work perfectly. It clearly didn't hit what it was trying to hit, but it was a pretty terrifying blast, close in yield and in damage to a small nuke without the radiation. So if this thing hits downtown Kyiv, it's going to do a lot of damage, to myself included. Again, I mean, it's not hyperbolic. to say I may go to sleep one night and not wake up. And we are concerned. We have been given warnings by the U.S. Embassy that, take these air raid warnings seriously, because they anticipate it could be as soon as this weekend that they use this thing here. And again, going back to the Patriot issue, is can the Patriot, which wasn't deployed in Dnipro, where this Oreshnik, the first Oreshnik, was kind of test fired in real time, can the Patriot knock it out of the air? And can it knock it out of the air, most importantly, before its warhead, which is a MIRV, MIRV stands for multi-entry rocket vehicle. It's got a whole bunch of warheads inside the warhead.
Yeah. It's a cluster bomb.
Okay, so what has happened?
It's a intercontinental cluster bomb.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. For simplicity's sake, let's put it that way. It's a little more complicated than that, but yeah.
Sure.
Can the Patriot hit it, or some sort of air defense hit this hypersonic missile before it deploys all of the other missiles? That's going to be crucial as well. So it's going to be a test of our air defense versus this new hypersonic. But do I think that it's going to be used? Unfortunately, yes, I do, and I'm terrified. I'm not too proud to say it. It's terrifying. I don't want to die for this cause. I want to live for this cause. But I'm also not going to. I'm not going to run away. And I do share some of my neighbors and the guys down at the market attitude of like, the Russians are going to do what the Russians are going to do, and we're just going to have to deal with it. Now, I've got a secure station set up inside my apartment where I have my body armor and my helmet, and I have what's called a run bag where I have all like enough food for 2 or 3 days and a change of clothes and all my essentials that I can just grab and go. My passport, some cash. And that is in an area of my apartment that has 3 walls that are concrete as opposed to plaster. So I'm hoping that it would be, if I did get hit or if debris hit me, I would be more protected. But if it comes our way and I'm asleep and I don't hear the alarm or whatever, this is a devastating weapon. It's scary. So I have a feeling that they will use it. I don't know when they will use it. The embassy is warning maybe this weekend. So who knows? Could happen at any minute. And it also could be a matter of terrorism. It could be Russia's intent is to terrorize the people of Ukraine and specifically Kyiv. I hope that's the case. Because this weapon isn't perfect. We saw that in Dnipro, and we don't know how many of them that they have. So we shall see. But sadly, unfortunately, my assessment is, we're going to get hit, and it's going to be bad.
Well, I know they've been hitting what they said was a helicopter/drone factory, which again,
the Ukrainians.
Well, no, the last big Russian bombing hit a Ukrainian one allegedly somewhere in the Kyiv area, along with some places around the electrical grid. But the Ukrainians have hit.
That was not. That wasn't an Shepnik, though. I think that was part of the for the last 48 hours.
Yeah.
Although it's been relatively quiet today, we've had a real intense attack with other weapon systems. They have, to my knowledge, they have not. They've shot 2 Shepniks, one into Dnipro, and then one they tried to fire from Russian territory, but something went awry and it failed in launch.
That happens a lot. Yeah.
But that's Russia for you.
That's the
they're not all going to be faulty. So we are. This is how we live.
There is you got people like Simonyan and Solovyev freaking out over the Assad fall, and meanwhile Medvedev is coming out and basically saying, almost like to help Putin out, like goosing the old phrasing they were using at the very beginning, that there is no Ukrainian people. The Russians and the Ukrainians are one, and if Ukraine exists, it must cease to exist so that Russia can get like this weird. Again, it's imperialism. By like, no, I'm helping you understand, baby. You got to stay home because nobody out there likes you. Yeah, and they'll, I beat you, but somebody out there will kill you because they really hate you. I love you, that's why I have to hit you. This is like the relationship stuff and they keep
You're making me do it. If I have to beat you into loving me again, then that's right. It's your fault. It's your fault. You're making me do this. Well, if you would just be subservient.
Yeah. In that analogy, I've always found that partners that act like that often are very aware that the minute they stop, the person starts to realize, oh, there's nothing for me in this relationship. The only thing keeping me here is my baggage and my belief that I deserve this kind of behavior. Once I realize I don't, and the behavior stops even for a short time, I go, oh, wait, there's more, there's bigger fish in the sea. I got to get out of here. This is stupid. And Russia's in that same circumstance. And that's what Maidan was ultimately about, was that for a period of time, there was a stretch of, sort of peaceful normalcy that was starting to grow and expand as an understood across the country after years of oppression. And then they were like, we don't need this. We should be friends with the European Union and trade with them. And then we can still have our identity as people, and we can trade with them and they can trade with us and be, a real country. And Russia said, not so fast. I mean, that's what, they tried to pull the rug out from under it, try to drag back Ukraine back in by their hair and continue the beatings. And that's what this is. Yep. We're in the middle of this nonsense. And it's so, it's pitiful is what it is. Yeah, it's sick. It's a sickness, right?
Yeah. It's no wonder they're fighting as hard as they are.
There was an estimate made, and I want to say like the Financial Times did the primary on it, but they've been, it's like the European Union put out these figures, whatever, that not supporting Ukraine will cost America 10 times what it has cost us so far. Our expansion of, if we can't drive Russia out, if they can't leave, and Russia remains in country, and we have to maintain a border and give security guarantees to Ukraine, it's going to cost us $808 billion over the course of the next decade, instead of the money that we've already spent here and overseas. Not here, not building arms and giving them there, which is what most of the money is used for here in the United States. It's spent here. The Ukrainian money that we're giving is spent in Louisiana and Arkansas and places where they're making in Indiana and Ohio. It goes and then those arms, the older stuff goes to Ukraine and the new stuff stays here. That's what we've been doing this whole time. This is money spent in Ukraine with boots on the ground, like a military base being built there, and all the material support that we'd have to give them. $808 billion is their estimate over the next decade.
Yeah.
If we do what Trump wants to do.
It's going to cost us a lot more. And not just us, our NATO partners as well. Unless, of course, Trump blows up the transatlantic, relationship, which I think is going to be harder, than, it's going to be easier said than done. But our European partners certainly are looking at Washington and going, America is not a trustworthy ally. So, but regardless, let's say we do stay within NATO and we want to see a secure European Union, which we should, because that's to our benefit, because they are a fantastic trading partner and an ally, and there are a myriad of reasons. America is strong because it builds alliances, and NATO is our strongest alliance. So we would, if we're thinking straight, we want to keep that going. Now, if Ukraine falls, as you say, with our allies in Europe, we're all going to have to be spending so much more of our GDP to keep things going. And you're right, we're also going to have to send more boots on the ground. Yeah. So I've heard this from Ukrainians a million times, and I'm going to regurgitate it again. Is that right now we're the shield. Right now we are the wall. We're standing on the wall against an aggressive, increasingly aggressive and expansionist Russia. Give us the weapons, we'll do the work. But we're the wall. The wall breaks and you guys are going to have to do some scrambling, and it's going to cost you a lot. So, why not let us do that? It's in our interest. We're perfectly willing to do it. Just give us the weapons. And so, for all these guys that scream bloody murder about the money that's being spent in Ukraine, the money that will be spent in Europe if Ukraine falls, and if Europe falls, which it doesn't have to be tanks on the Champs-Elysees for Europe to fall. What could happen is this expansionist, aggressive Russia can flood the zone with money, with influence, and with more military threat. And the more, at one point that Anna makes in the show, and you'll hear it tomorrow if you watch, is that they will also have larger populations that they can then conscript into armies. Like it or not, they could grab a bunch of Ukrainian men. Let's say Ukraine falls, or Georgia falls, or whatever, what have you. One of the Baltic states falls. There's a manpower aspect to it as well, that they could conscript these guys and have them turn around and get aggressive towards a European nation. So you're arguing about a possible scenario, and so it's kind of a little bit more difficult to say, like, I'll pinpoint this amount of money, although that's a great analysis that says 80 billion or something. That's a possible scenario. What's happening right now, guys can point at and go, I don't like my money going to Ukraine. Well, how do you debate that and then say, if it goes this certain way, we're going to spend a lot more. So when this cost is right in front of us right now, but it's faulty logic, and I firmly believe, otherwise I wouldn't be here. I firmly believe that this is the place we draw the line in the sand and say, no, you can't do that. You can't take bigger countries can't take smaller countries just because they're bigger. That era is in the past. That's what the whole European Union project is about, and that's why we should support it. It's just that kind of thinking. It's short-sighted. Really short-sighted.
Let's take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Plus, fuck those guys.
Yeah, really.
That's just the dumbest damn fucking argument. We'd have to make Fortress Europe again.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's
well,
we really want to go down that road.
I'm curious about something too, because I have been increasingly aware that the Biden and his administration are definitely laying traps for Trump. In terms of in a good way. The primary one being is that they set stuff up like the ACA that is based on the idea that this should be a lasting piece of legislation. We're not doing, executive orders to solve all our goddamn problems. So we're passing through stuff through Congress. We're having people vote on it. And even if we, have to use our only majority vote or whatever, we're putting a piece of law in place that can stand the test of the SCOTUS and all this.
Coming back in 5 seconds.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Whereas Trump wants to do everything with executive order and kind of automatically, but it can be undone just as quickly. And they don't.
I am happy, you are happy. Let us be happy together. Whether the weather is cloudy or sunny, I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together. Whether the weather is cloudy or breezy, I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. Because isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you? Chugga chugga choo choo. Woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together. Whether the weather is cloudy or stormy, I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
Welcome back to the show. By the way, Johnny Million, I think your happy ending is that you're going to go see Maria Bamford tonight. Where are you going to go see her?
I'm so excited about it. Yeah, she's so brilliant.
Where are you going to see her?
Yeah.
I'm going to see her at the Den Theater on Milwaukee Avenue in Chicago.
The Den Theater, named after, of course, John Candy's character in Heavy Metal.
Yes.
And and you don't want to walk around with your dork hanging out, I think is the message of that movie in general. One of the greatest lines ever uttered by John Candy, and that's saying a lot because
I
he's
think about that sandwich that he eats in that movie all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, in Splash, as in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, John Candy is the heart of the movie.
Yep.
And we miss him dearly and what have you. Anyway, so have fun doing that, and good luck tomorrow handing out flyers for Jeremy Piven for the performance. And I insist that he give you a tap dancing lesson. It must happen.
Fair enough.
So Phil, let's grab a couple more questions before we
sure. Got a few more minutes.
Get into this. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. So I've got one. This is from Twitch. Are the North Koreans reinforcing their troop losses?
That's a good question. There certainly seem to be more DPRK troops than we had originally thought. We are getting reports from Russian mill bloggers and stuff like that they're making some progress in the Kursk area, which is where this section where Ukraine has crossed over into the Russian Federation. Still using kind of the same tactics, but they're just apparently enough of them that they're overwhelming some Ukrainian positions. So it is certainly possible that they are being reinforced. So why there has not been more condemnation of this from European countries to have a non-European, that DPRK military attack on a European country, and it's crickets in Brussels and in Washington, frankly, but certainly in Brussels is a little bit of baffling. But we shall see how effective they are. I mean, we also hear from the Ukrainians that it is the same kind of, wave attack kind of tactic and mentality, where so that allows the Ukrainians to just mow them down as they come. But there are a lot of them, so we shall see, and we'll see if the question is if North Korea is filling in their losses. So, but I don't know definitively, and I think that's probably a closely held secret within Ukraine as well.
Yeah, and there's been what we mainly have, I think, to go on, Phil, at least outside the country via the Telegram channels and other stuff, is that there's just more signs that the North Koreans are, that more North Korean soldiers are being thrown into the mix, and that they're showing up dead on the battlefield or deserting, and that.
Well, and it would be for Moscow. It's perfect, because why let your own soldiers die and possibly face political backlash when you can use basically slaves from North Korea, because that's how that system is set up.
Right.
And there's no political ramification or blowback for Moscow. So I absolutely could see this trend continuing. So
yeah, absolutely. Let's grab another one, Johnny.
This is another one from Twitch. How badly can Trump screw things up for Ukraine?
Oh, we don't have enough time. I mean, he can. He has the ability to screw things up pretty darn bad. As Hal mentioned, the Biden administration is fast tracking a lot of stuff over here, and I have seen the U.S. military in action when they do logistics. When they want to move troops, and when they want to move stuff, whether it's artillery rounds or Bradley fighting vehicles, they can get stuff around the world pretty quick. So, hopefully there will be enough material on the ground in Europe already here that can be brought into Ukraine as quickly as possible before the inauguration. After the inauguration, we'll see. I mean, there's talk of negotiations and ceasefires. The problem, and this is something I wanted to talk about, and I think we have enough time for me to do this.
Yeah,
is that Putin also finds himself in a very difficult predicament. He is in a catch-22. He has hundreds of thousands of troops on the front lines here. His economy is about 23 to 25% of his entire economy is built around war fighting.
Yeah.
So he can't just. Well, so what's he going to do? He's going to have assign a ceasefire, and those hundreds of thousands of soldiers are going to return to the Russian Federation with combat experience and PTSD, and they're going to want jobs. Right. And if there is no war, there's no need for a war industry, so they're going to have to transition back into a peacetime economy. But there's going to have to be a transition. So in that period of time, these hundreds of thousands of war fighters with messed up, with loads of problems, are going to be returning home to no work. They're not going to be getting. They're not going to be getting Are they going to be getting a soldier's salary? Will they be demobilized? These are huge questions, and he's painted himself into a corner. He can't stop the war immediately because his economy's on a war footing, and he's got all these soldiers that we'll have to deal with when they come home. Mm-hmm. They may be pointing their guns to the west right now, but if he says, "Oh, no more fighting," and come home and you get nothing, you get no more benefits, there's no more money.
Yeah,
those weapons could easily turn from pointed west to pointed towards Moscow. Look, he is in a real pickle, and so I don't even know if he is incentivized for a peace process or a ceasefire. Trump doesn't know what he's talking about. I mean, surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
But this cannot be solved quickly. Right. There's going to have to be a long process of peace negotiations and ceasefires and what have you. So Trump may be able to screw things up to get back to the question, but but Putin also can screw things up because he's in this predicament that he's in, and and also add to the equation Zelensky's problems in that if he is. If Trump thinks he can force Zelensky into some kind of unfair peace, which only just incentivizes Russia to come back in 5 or 10 years,
right,
he will be chucked out of office. They will start having elections again, and he will lose because the people of Ukraine fully recognize the threat, and Zelensky has got to find a way towards a peace, because all Ukrainians do want peace. We are exhausted of this war. But we understand that if the war is not ended properly, they'll just come back. So Zelensky has problems with negotiating a ceasefire as well.
And maybe this
isn't easy.
Agreed. And like this fixation that Trump has, that he has some sort of a stranglehold on his own party and a stranglehold on the people that hang out at Mar-a-Lago, and this kind of like mini fiefdom that poses as a tiny North Korea in the middle of Florida, gives him the illusion that everybody else will snap to for other world leaders, especially in the West. That doesn't happen. You look at his complaints about the news media and why all the stories about him are bad. It's because he does bad stuff. But also, he thinks that shouldn't exist. And the idea that he thinks the only thing that world leaders will care about, especially Zelensky, is his personal favor or not, is absurd. Or that even Republicans in the Congress and in the Senate will be lockstep with him. There are some, I'm more concerned about anonymous holds on Ukrainian aid in the future than I am about an overt thing where the Republicans lockstep tell Trump nothing. And if he vetoes Ukrainian aid to benefit Vladimir Putin at a time when Putin's on his heels in a way that nobody's ever seen him before, then that he's going to have a lot of explaining to do. And it brings up the Russiagate stuff all over again. And it starts to make, in stark relief. But then he's trapped because, we'll see. We're running out of time, so that we could unpack that forever. On the Edge is Philip Ittner's show on YouTube. Please check it out. Johnny Million's got a live stream called It's Johnny Million.
Eastern time.
That's right.
8 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah, and I'll be here all the time. So just info.teamwars.com.
10 a.m. Pacific, sorry.
Like and subscribe. They'll find it. They'll be there, yes. So info.teamwars.com. Facebook, follow on there if that's your thing, and we'll see you next time. And thank you, Chicago. We'll see you next week, where I will be in Kentucky.
Lots of compliments on your beard in the chat, Phil. I told you you're looking good.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
It is.
And a few of them, people want to know, I think genuinely, if you have a Santa hat, or have people ever asked you if you're Santa?
Yeah, I've got a Santa hat around here somewhere. I've got my elf, who's been here since last Christmas.
I feel like that's what Apple's intelligence would make as a Phil emoji in a pointy hat if you asked it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I will talk to you on Wednesday. Yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely. We'll see you next time.
Stay safe, Phil.
See you later. Have fun tonight, Johnny. I tell Maria I said hi.
I will.
And she'll go, he's great. Yeah, I remember him. He's weird. She thinks I'm weird, and she's right. She's right. Right. Yeah. Anyways, all right. Cheers, guys.
All right.
There they go. Letting them be free. Thank you guys so much. And chat room, I just want to say hi to you guys real quick before I go. Thanks so much. Let's see. I don't know who is coming up this afternoon, but tomorrow Boston Brian has a show. Please check it out. Subscribe to his channel as well. Cliff's Edge, also jump on there along with Johnny. Like, subscribing on YouTube is free, and you should just do it for all the stations. It's not going to gum up the works, and you'll still get your information feed. And something like 40% of the people that watch my show on the regular are subscribed. So my number is far lower than even the bigger channels that are always complaining about it. So I suppose I should start bringing it up. It's the holiday season. For God's sake, show some magnanimity. And I will see you guys later. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. And remember, if you're ever at a loss for words, remember what the great Greg Kelly, the most miserable man on the internet, said. Yeah. I think we can all learn an important life lesson from those words or noises. So weird. Look at that. I don't know, it'll work, I guess. Thank you guys. Thanks, Beverly and Hal and Angela and Jerry and Peter and Patrick and David. Thank you so much. And thanks to everybody for the Venmo help as well, which I don't have up on the screen, but never mind.